Hey, good evening. This is Dr. Jeffrey Scott. This is my Market MRI Pro update for Monday, June 2nd, 2025. Just got back from the cancer meetings, ASCO, and wouldn't you know it, on Monday we saw a couple of transactions related to oncology as Bristol Myers Squibb did a deal with BioNTech and Sanofi bought out Blueprint, which is pretty cool because they're both suggesting that maybe we're going to see more in M&A in biotech. Biotech prices are low. Biotech has sold off for quite some time, and maybe that's a sign that biotech is going to improve, which is good because I always like biotech. Anyways, today I called it markets move higher despite tariff fear led lower open. Futures were off all night long, and Nasdaq opened up higher, and the markets followed it higher as the day went on, despite fears about the tariffs. MarketMRIPro@gmail.com is my email. HGSIDoc@gmail works too, and Google Group is called Top Down Trader. As always, these are for educational purposes only. Anything I talk about should be taken in the spirit of education, not investment advice. All my videos are demonstrate how I do top-down investing and analysis, and it's education and not trading advice. Trading involves risk. You are solely responsible for any investment decisions you make. I may own or intend to buy or sell any stock I mentioned. Trading stocks and options should be considered risky. You should always consult with your financial advisor before making trades. I have tools in multiple platforms, but am an independent trader. It's coming up. It's getting late, but even if you can't get there live, you can still be there for the online version. June 6th through 8th at the Residence Inn and Suites in Tustin, Orange County, California. Um, $400. Probably be four speakers now. I've had one change. 3 days of great education, although I'm working on the fifth. And if you attend and you pay $400 to register and you join my Top Down Trader group, you'll get $500 off my Market MRI Pro for live and online attendees. And everybody that attends that doesn't already have my software will get a free 3-week trial. If you're interested, please contact Greg Mills at gam72054 at AOL.com. And what else we got for you? My Google group is called Top Down Trader. If you're not part of it, this is where I post everything, send you little notes during the day, um, special deals on things that I might offer for sale. It's not for solicitation. I don't bombard you with spam. Look, I have a full-time job in healthcare tech, leading a big company, and this is my passion. I do this because I like to help people, and anybody that follows me for any length of time will probably verify that I'm not using this to be constantly soliciting you like so many others. Know your news and earnings. Let's see. Monday we had some Fed heads, not too much. Excuse me. Sunday we had some Fed heads. Monday we had PMI. ISM came out good, and that drove the market higher, I believe. We got factory orders and some job openings, more Fed heads on Tuesday. And Wednesday we got the beige book, more Fed heads, and some employment numbers. Monday earnings were here, not a big deal. We got Dollar General, Ollie's before the open Tuesday. CrowdStrike might be interesting. Hewlett Packard Enterprises, Guidewire. It's a judgment call to hold stocks over earnings dates. It is bad judgment to not know when your stock's earnings date is scheduled. All right, let's go look at some charts. So this is my tool. This is sort of my heads-up display that's on during the day. Shows me the Q's led higher 0.79, 0.56 for the Spider, 0.31 for the Russell, zero point 0.2 for the Diamonds. Now, the lows of the session, you can see here, Russell was down over 1%. That's a big turnaround. And if you look over here, you can see they all finished up at the top of their range. That's bullish. Bullish. Bitcoin was down a bit. It's up after hours. The dollar was down, and volatility was down. Over on the right, you can see at 52 weeks, the number of new highs minus new lows of the NYSE remains positive, and we flip to positive on the NASDAQ. If we look at one-day changes on the S&P 500 sectors, energy, tech, materials, communications up at the top. And the only thing that was negative was industrials. and then you had the defensive financials, consumer staples, healthcare, and real estate um, bringing up the rear. So a negative day for defensive, which means a good day for growth. Typically, when we look over here, we can see that compared to Friday, many more sectors were up in the S&P 1500, 73%. About the same industry groups, 41%. Only 38% of the stocks were up in the S&P 1500. So despite the higher indexes, there is still some weakness underneath. 73% of sectors in the NASDAQ, 48% of industries, a little higher than the prior day, and 49% of stocks. And you can see on the NYSE a little bit less number of sectors were positive, 45% of industry groups and only 44% of stocks. So, breadth was not great. Indices did pick us up and finish positive. If we look at the timing model, the weekly model is still positive or bullish on spiders, Qs, and diamonds. And the Russell flip-flopped after all of them for the weekly have been sell for quite some time. It's going to have to get above this yellow line, the WMA, to flip. It did not flip on Monday. The daily model, which is the short-term model, has remained positive. So I am more bullish than bearish. I think we're going higher here, although I'll feel better when the Russell weekly turns to buy as well. If I look at skip those. We'll go look at the U.S. index charts. You'll see that we really are consolidating here. The spiders and the Qs, the spiders were up 0.5%, the Qs were up 0.79%, are really going sideways above the 200, above the prior all-time highs. I think consolidation under previous highs is somewhat, what's the word, so is a positive and could lead to higher highs. The diamonds also going sideways. I wish they were closing above the 200, which they did not, up 0.20%. And the Russell also going sideways, maybe tilting down a little bit, was plus 0.31. You can see the VIX, a big red bar, was down in the market on Monday 1.13, and then the dollar dropped considerably, was down 0.69. If I look at commodities, gold, dollar week, gold popped. It was up 2.66. Look at the move on silver. Silver, which has been lagging of late. Wow, what a big move. Not quite up to this high, but took out the most recent high here. What a strong session on silver, and silver was up 5.3%. Oil even popped above the 50, up 3.57, and natural gas, believe it or not, popped above. Let me check that. Hold on a second. Let's reset that. Let's pop up natural gas. Yep, natural gas actually was up in the market 7.38%, probably because of some positive news on liquid natural gas and potentially exporting. 10-year bounced off trend line support and was up 1%. And I gotta stop doing that, Jeffrey. Hit the reset there. And the 30-year here is coming into an area. Let's blow this up and see what that area was. An area of prior resistance zone. You'd expect there to be resistance here, but it was up 1.34%. Okay, shut that down. Next thing I look at is what I call my buckets, and I'll just say the buckets are pretty neutral, not a signal to buy nor sell, not overbought nor oversold. And the market breadth, you can see a strong finish on the NYSE up at the high. The low was 19,599, the close was 19,834. That's 230, almost 235 points off the lows. It's a pretty big recovery. Here is the NASDAQ, and the NASDAQ was up, as you could see, closing at its highs. Volume, for whatever reason, hasn't printed yet on the NYSE. It wasn't very impressive on the NASDAQ. You could see not much happening. Probably stocks above the 20 down, stocks above the 50 and 200 relatively flat, and that's on both the NYSE and the NASDAQ. And if you look at new highs, new lows here, a little bit more positive on the NYSE. Advanced decliners, negative on the NYSE, positive on the NASDAQ. Up-down volume was positive on both and no new major signals. So if I have to make my assessment on the market, I'd say the market is stable in a consolidating pattern below prior highs. I still think it's a bullish setup and that we go higher, but I have to be aware that we could break down. And we are so news driven in this market. As much as I'd like to think that this is not going to be impacted by news, I think that would be a relatively naive opinion. All right. If we look at the sectors, you could see discretionary flipped up a little bit, as did technology, while the defensive staples, utilities, real estate, healthcare didn't do much, even with those acquisitions in biotech, and industrials was also weak or weakening from strength. If we go into the JAS layout, I love to first start by telling you the 3,639 stocks in this list are made up of stocks from the NYSE, NASDAQ, and Amex, and they are consisting of those stocks a dollar and 100,000 higher than both of those. The top down will stick them into the various sectors. If we look at what sector led higher, basic materials, energy, healthcare, communication, and then technology. Why is this different than the S&P 500? Because it's 3,600 stocks. Over here are the industry groups for all those sectors, and there's multiple different ways that I can manipulate this. But let's just see what the top industry groups were. Biotech, semiconductors, software, specialty retail, application, gold, insurance, steel, internet content, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then travel services. These 968 stocks represent the stocks in those leading industries. And then I'm going to come in here. Let's filter for above $5 and 500,000 shares. Let's hit OK. And let's see who had the most of my bullish impulses. Let's just go down the list. TBH, Theravance, don't know much about this. Theravance Biopharma, beautiful breakout. You can always pop up here and see if there are earnings today. No earnings today. Okay. And it doesn't make money. And if you go over here, you look at the news. Okay, so they had a sale, another activity of the sales and M&A. They sold something to GSK and generated cash. That's sort of adding by subtraction. Vera Therapeutics, sort of a big bounce here. Is it earnings? Is it an IPO? It might not have earnings in here. Let's see the news. Successful trial. Ooh. Significantly reduce excess levels of harmful proteins in the urine of kidney disease patients. Well, that might be something to look at. Seeing a gap on data is exciting. 200s overhead. Look at that volume. Gap volume, breakout momentum, relative strength, and OBV. Again, I don't like to buy things below the 200, but I like that story. I saw on Kramer Nucor Steel he was talking about the big tariffs may help U.S. steelmakers. Big gap up, closed in the bottom part. RGNX, Regenix Bio, long downtrend, broke out above the 200, actually held and broke out higher. That's an interesting looking pattern. Good relative strength in OBV and the blue dots of CPR volume breakout momentum. Here's Nucor. You'll see a big move in a downtrend. Still have to get above the 200. with gold strong, no surprise that Newmont, this is a beautiful looking chart, isn't it? Uptrend, pullback, retest, and a breakout. And it's probably up on the price of gold. Earnings are not to July. Look at the earnings per share change and surprise, as well as revenue and surprise. NEM looks very interesting. MTUS, don't know much about them. And I just usually go through the list and see if there's something that gives me a good pattern here. IAG is another good looking gold play. What happens when you get bought out? Well, that's this one blueprint where you bump up here and then I'm done. I'm not interested in anymore. And BioNTech sold something, I believe, to Pfizer, maybe. Let's see, or GSK. Let's look. I think it's Pfizer. Bristol Myers is awesome. All right. So that's how I do top down. And I think this tool is great because you can really control what you're looking at by picking which of the stock groups or creating your own, as I did. Now, if I go into the impulse group, I still got that $3 and $5 filter on, or 500,000 shares, $5 and 500,000 shares, I'm sorry. Let's look for pullbacks and uptrend. Let's hit OK. And again, let's rank them by impulses. There's that TBTH. SU is Suncor. Vera shows up again. Here's Steel Dynamics. Shell. Interesting, the same stocks. Nucor. I think so far Newmont is my favorite looking pattern. Lira. LRN looks great. Nice pullback and then a reversal. Took out the 17 with a CPR, volume breakout momentum, out of a squeeze with relative strength and OBV breaking out. LQDA. Here's Chimera. So this is what I do. I go through lists of stocks, gold, and then I have a few scans that are my go-to. And one of my go-to scans is, let's just look at 5 and 500,000 again. And now let's look at 2 days momentum, hit OK. And let's just look at these very quickly. Stone Company, well, big move up, pull back, and a breakout. I like that. Sprouts was one of the ones over the weekend. Did it break out above this line? That was sort of what I had to see happen. This is one, if it doesn't break down, I might be interested in going after. What are earnings on this? Not to July 28th. Excellent. And then the third one is LNG, which is partly why gas was up, and this is Cheniere, and it had good things said to about it on CNBC after hours as well. So look at that. 18 minutes, we assessed the market, we identified the leading sectors and industry groups, we found Newmont Gold, we found STNE, we found SFM, and a few others. Have a great day in the market. Come see me this weekend, and you'll get to see all the new features as well in Market MRI Pro.